Okay, we are back on the wheels for the Jaguar build, and these are what I got done in the last video. These are the central parts. These are ready for a final polishing and then a nickel plating. But before I do that, I want to start on the outer wheels, or the outer part. And so that's, this part around here. And I think I said in the last video, maybe, I don't remember, but I think I said in the last video that the kit wheels I have now are garbage. These are really thin, pliable. They all have flat spots. They all have some kind of an issue. I think even my best tire is just not very good. Might be this one is my best one, but it's got a dent in it here. And I thought about different things like filling them with foam. But even then, I mean, they're not good. So I went online, I went on eBay, and I decided to get another tire from the Agostini set. And again, I think I might have mentioned that before. If you're not familiar with Agostini, they have a lot of different model builds, a lot of different subject matter. But they have a 1/8 Jaguar, and but they do it as a prescription. A subscription. I keep getting those words mixed up. A subscription, and so I went ahead and ordered one tire. So this is issue 3. So if you are building the Agostini model, issue 3. You get a tire and a steering wheel and the horn button. And I figured, even if I don't use that tire, I still need a steering wheel. Even though I was kind of thinking about just making my own out of wood. I mean, this one doesn't look bad, but I might still make my own steering wheel. So I'll still use the horn button. So you get the horn button. So I'll definitely use that, even if I don't use that. But anyways, I'm here for the tire. And I'm not going to lie, I already opened this up and checked it out. And take a look at the tire here. Now, I just bought the one because they're not cheap. I didn't want to spend over $100 on tires if they didn't fit. So I just got the one to see if it would fit. And if it did, then I would go ahead and buy the other 3. Now this one, again, this is issue 3, came with a steering wheel. This one came from overseas. So with shipping and everything, it was like $40. And it actually fits like perfect. Look at that. I mean, that is a perfect fit for the kit, for the monogram kit wheels. So if you are just building the monogram model, and you want new tires because the kit tires are garbage, you can go online and order the Agostini tires, and they fit the wheel. It's almost a... My wheel halves aren't going together very well because there's a lot of glue from the previous builder. But anyways, once that gets lined up right, they're pretty much a perfect fit. Might need a little bit of glue to tighten... There might be a little bit loose, but they're better than the monogram tires. There's a little notch. Let's see if that goes this way. There. Those wheel halves are locked in. They're a little bit loose. I'll give it that. They're a little bit loose, but the gap is not really visible. And so if you just put it on with some sealant, some black RTV, and just wipe off any excess or even some epoxy on the inside, these would be fine. They're definitely better than the monogram kit tires. I would have no problem with putting these on just the rest of the stock model if that's what I was doing. But again, they're not cheap. Now, since I found out that this does fit, and again, that looseness is not an issue because I plan on making the wheels separate. I'll make the wheels to fit the tire, which is why I was waiting. I haven't touched this in at least a week because I was waiting to get this tire to take the dimensions of it so I can figure out the dimensions for the wheel. Anyways, I feel like I'm rambling on way too much. So once I realized that these would fit and they do work, I went back on eBay. I found a seller here in the States that was selling that had 3 others to get. And so this one was issue 3. There's another one that's like issue 41, I think. I don't remember exactly. I think it's like 41, 53, and 57, I think. So I made him an offer for those 3, and he accepted that offer, and so he'll be shipping those to me soon. So I'll have all 4 tires for just a little over $100, which it's more than I wanted to pay, but it's a lot better than trying to use these. And for the amount of detail that I'm putting in this thing already, I think it's well worth it. So what I need to do now is take the measurements from the tire in order to figure out the dimensions for the wheel. And if you look in the shop manual here, they give you a cross-sectional view of the tire and the wheel. It's not to scale. It's maybe, I don't know, 50% bigger than it should be. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to photocopy this and scale it down so I can have like a correct size, a correct scale. But if you'll notice on this diagram, they have a split line like right here. I'm not sure if that's to denote the center line of the tire. It kind of looks like it is. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this outer wheel part as 2 pieces. One of them to here, and then the second piece to here. And I had a couple of thoughts of how I could do that. My first thought was to get a chunk of brass and machine them like I did the center one. But that would be a chunk of brass. Would have to start off at about 52, 53 millimeters, which is a little over 2 inches. Yeah, just a tiny bit over 2 inches. So I would have to buy a 2 1/8 or 2 1/4 inch square brass rod. And of course it would have to be long enough to get 4 wheels out of it. So I did find a piece of brass that size, and it was about $120. I also found chunks of brass, like I could have bought 4 like 1 inch thick slugs of brass that might have also worked, but with shipping that still would have been close to $100. So to machine these out of brass, I would be looking at, between $90 to $140, including the shipping. And most of that material would just be machined away. So that would be kind of wasteful. I didn't want to do that. So my next thought was to try to press them out of flat pieces of copper. So I went on Amazon and I ordered some flat copper. This is 1 millimeter thick, which is actually thinner than the plastic pieces, I think, pretty close to it. And so again, I'm going to stamp those shapes. So I need some chunky pieces of metal to make those shapes to stamp it with. So I've got some chunks of aluminum. I cut these out of a much larger chunk of aluminum. Well, it was a bar of aluminum that was about a little wider than that and about 4 feet long. And so the plan is to, once I get these dimensions, so this block will be like on an outside. So I'll turn this down to fit that dimension. And then this block will be turned down to fit that dimension. So they will fit together with a 1 millimeter gap. And then basically just put a piece of copper in it and smash them together. That should work, right? I hope. I figure it'll either work or it won't. Now, ideally, this should be steel. When you're stamping parts like that, it should be steel. because steel will last a lot longer. Aluminum will eventually wear out. However, for as thick and chunky as this is, and I'm assuming this is going to be harder than the thin copper, which I will anneal before I even try pressing it. I don't know if this is softened yet or not, so I'm going to anneal it before I even start. I only need to make 4 of each side, and those shapes are different. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to cut a third one of these. So I'm thinking what I can do is this block here, I can machine in 1/2 and then machine in the other half, and then I'll have this one for the outer side to press in, then I'll need a third one to press on the other one. I got plenty of this aluminum. I got more of this than I'll ever probably need. But I want to do one first just to see if it works. If it works, then I'll cut and square up another piece of aluminum to do that. And then if that works, well, then that's great. If that doesn't work, man, I don't know. If that doesn't work, I'll probably just have to shell out the $100 for a chunk of brass and machine them out, like my first thought. Really don't want to do that because I just spent $100 in tires. So I really don't want to spend another $100 just on the outer wheel part. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take the dimensions, I'm going to sketch out what I need, and I'm going to turn these aluminum blocks down to make the dies to stamp out the brass pieces. Okay, so there's the a copy or a print of the wheel cross-section from the manual. That is actual size to the kit. And I took measurements of the kit wheel and the new tire and that, and to come up with the best dimensions that would fit the car and the new tire. And this is what I come up with dimensional-wise. And so that is getting cut into the block here. I'm on the first step. First thing I did was put the chunk in the lathe and dial it in, back and forth, and, because it's the 4-jaw. So I got the dialed in, had to space it up a bit because I'm going to have to go down real close to that jaw there. So if that was all the way against there, I wouldn't be able to come all the way out. So again, that's just the first step. That is right there, 8 millimeters in, 41 millimeters diameter. So now I've got to widen out to 49.5 and go in another 3.75 and then widen out again and go down to 4, and that'll be done. So yeah, one step down, 2 more to go, and then this piece will be, well, not done, but close enough. I still got to drill and tap a hole here and polish it all up and make it look all nice. So yeah, let me get this one done. I'll get the other one done and I'll show you how they fit. All right, so there's the finished piece for that side. I've got some holes drilled for some guides as it's pressing on. And this is the other side of that. Those pins are pressed into here and they're a nice slide fit on this one. So those go together like that. And again, that's the other side of that. Couldn't quite go all the way through. I was kind of at the limit of my boring bar, but it doesn't have to. But I'm hoping I can use this when I do the other half of the wheel. So I'll just do a little bit there, and that'll be most of the work for the other side. Of course, those pins will have to come out. So, and then this is the copper, and that will bolt on right there. I have this copper annealed, and you just heat it up to red with a torch, and then just let it cool down. That'll get screwed on like that, and then press together, and that should work. I'm about to find out. I got to take this to work where we have a press, and we have a hydraulic press, so I'll be finding out in just a few minutes. So let's go see what that looks like. Okay, so it only compressed that much, and which doesn't surprise me. But what happened, I think a couple of things, a couple of issues here. One is it work hardened, which I was honestly expecting. I was fully expecting to have to anneal this at least once or twice during the process. But as far as it went, I'm hoping maybe I'm only going to have to anneal it once. Maybe. We'll see. But the other thing that happened is that it kind of ran out of room to move. You'll notice it actually started hitting right about here. And it's a little bit wavy. Again, that's to be expected. Once it's fully pressed home, all that waviness should be pressed out of it. But it's hitting the surface right here before it has room to like swing down into place. And so what I need to do is, well, I need to anneal this, and I need to put this back in the lathe and relieve some material about that far out. I'll probably go down about, I don't know, 3 millimeters. That's probably overkill, but that should be plenty to give that material room to kind of swing down and set up against here. So yeah, let me get all that done, and then we'll try it again and see how it goes. Okay, so here is that piece. I think this is done for that stage. It still needs to be trimmed, but as you can see, I had to cut down a channel right in here, about 3 millimeters, to give that excess room to go in. But there it is setting on the form there, and of course this piece, and it's pretty much, I could probably go a little bit more, but I don't know if that's really going to do much. I mean, I think it's down as far as it can go. Maybe when I do the other three, I'll just compare all three and see if any of them need to be a little bit more. But as far as I can tell, I mean, this is setting like firmly on those steps. So I don't really think it's going to go down anymore. But obviously this is still a little bit oversized. It'll be trimmed maybe about right there, and a little bit more probably about right there. Maybe even more than that. That inside lip here is only going to be sticking up just a tiny bit. That's just a little bit of that lip. When you put it on the tire, it's pretty much a perfect fit on that tire. I mean, I could not be more pleased with that. And again, as we said, that lip sticking out here will be cut off pretty much like right to there. So just barely a little bit of a lip sticking out, again, right about there. So that part right there might only be like about 1 millimeter or so, maybe even less. But what I need to do now to this piece, other than trim it, is drill some holes for the spokes. So the holes for the spokes will go along here, right along there, and right along that surface there, right along there. So those are where the holes for the spokes will be drilled. I'm not going to trim that off until after I drill the holes, because I'll probably need that surface to mount to a spindle or something, or an arbor, for drilling the holes. Once all the holes are drilled, then I can trim that off, again, probably all the way around that way. And that pencil wasn't very clear, so again, that'll get trimmed off right about like that. So there's one down, 3 more to go. Now, when I finished this off, I mean, you saw on the hydraulic press, it went most of the way and then stopped. So then I brought it home. I re-annealed it, put it back in the tools, and I don't have a hydraulic press here. So I basically just put it on the floor, put a steel block here, and just weld on it with a hammer. And it went a little bit more, then I'd have to take it apart, re-anneal it, and do it again, and anneal it, and hit it, and anneal it. And I probably had to do that about 6 or 7 times before it sat down all the way. And right now it is pretty hard. It has work hardened quite a bit. But I need to get the other 3 made. And so I can get those out of that sheet. So that's just the right size to get those 3 made. And then I need to make the other side. So the piece I just did was this half right here. That's the piece I just did. So now I need to make the tooling for the other half, for the inboard half. So that part is a little bit longer than this part, and that part's a lot shorter than that part. So I need to make the tooling to do that, and then press out 4 of those. And then figure out how to attach them later. That's my first thought was to solder them at that point, put a sleeve on the inside to solder them, but then I would have to stretch the tire over that ridge, and I don't want to risk bending the wheel. And I know with the Agostini tires, if you soak them in hot water, they become more flexible. But I don't want to get water trapped in there. And I don't want water on my copper pieces. I know they'll be plated, but I don't want water on them because they could corrode later down the road. So I don't want to take any chances there. So I think what I will do is make like a little, on one of the parts, make like an extra little sleeve. And then when I put them together, just JB weld them together there. So that's kind of the plan. Right now, my biggest concern are these little bumps right there that the spokes go into. And when you look at the kit part, they replicated those little bumps on the kit part. Now on the real wheel, on the real car, it looks like those were pressed in from the back side, like a hydraulic tool came in and pushed those divots in, and that's where the spoke goes in. And that was my first thought for these, was to somehow press them from the back side. So I would have to make a tool to fit in here and allow me to press down or hammer them with a punch. But then I'd have to be able to get that tool back out. And I would have to have a tool in here so I wouldn't distort the circle. And then I was thinking, well, if I'm pressing metal in, well, that's going to stretch that metal, which would distort the circle. So I was really having second thoughts about trying to hammer or press them in. Maybe I'm worried about nothing. But what I decided to do, I found online some copper rivets that have a 2-ish millimeter head. When you look at these, that's just a little over 2 millimeters. So those bumps are just a little over 2 millimeters. Just taking the measurement from my scale drawing there, they're 2.3 millimeters, which would probably fit. So I actually found some really tiny copper rivets on eBay that have a head diameter of 2.3. And they sell them in packs of 50 for like $2.50 or something like that. So 72 rivets per wheel, 4 wheels. That's about 280 some odd rivets. So I bought 300 of them for $18. So the plan is to drill those holes big enough for the rivet to go in, put the rivet in from that side, and then solder them in place, and then re-drill the holes for the spokes, and then nickel plate everything. That's the plan. I also have, left over from the Poker Mercedes build, I have a bunch of these spoke nipples that went on the wheels of the Mercedes. They're not exactly the right shape. Here I just put one on on one of those silk pens that I'm going to be using for the spokes. See if that'll focus. There we go. So I could use those. But right now, I'm not sure if those are solderable. Those would be easier than the rivets because they're already drilled the right size for what I want to use for a spoke. They are 2 millimeters in diameter, which I think is actually better, maybe. The rivets would be 2.3. So I think those would be easier. So I'm going to do some experiments with these. If I can make that work, if I can solder to that, then maybe I'll just use those. So that is another option. But right now, like I said, I need to make 3 more of these and then tooling for the other side. And that's going to take a really long time. And I don't want to start drilling any holes until all those parts are made and I have figured out what I want to do with those or the rivets. That's going to take quite a long time. So I think what I'm going to do is end this video here. I'm not going to show you the process of making the other side to each wheel, the inboard side of each wheel, because it's the same process of this. It's exactly the same, just a little bit differently shaped is all. So I'm going to leave this video here. I'm going to call this video done here. When we get back to this, on the next video, which will probably be a couple of weeks, but when we get back to this, we should be ready to start drilling holes and putting the little spoke divots in and getting them final trimmed to shape, and hopefully maybe start looking into the nickel plating process, which I've never done yet, but I've always wanted to. So this has been a really slow process. It's taken a lot longer than I expected it would take when I first started this. So so be patient with me. I apologize. It's weeks between videos, but and not a lot of progress shown per video, and way too much talking and not enough working. But I appreciate all of you that are watching and hanging out to the end. I also want to comment. I also want to say, somebody in one of the last videos I did, I was talking about the Agostini parts, like these tires, which, by the way, these tires are a whole lot. Look, there's the kit part. This is the monogram tire. And if you leave the model like on these tires for too long, they get flat spotted. Just like that. That's what happens when you leave this car on these soft tires on a shelf for too long. They get distorted and flat spotted. These from Agostini are like really thick and hard. Plus they look a lot nicer. But again, somebody commented on one of my last videos that told me I should check out World of Wayne. World of Wayne is building a lot of these Agostini models, the Jaguar, for example. And I replied back and said, yeah, I've been watching World of Wayne for quite a while. If you are interested in the Agostini kits, those models where it's a monthly subscription type of a thing, if you're interested in that, go check out World of Wayne. He's doing a lot of them, and he's got a lot of experience with his Agostini models. He's doing several different cars, several different models, not just Agostini, but there's also, I think, like Aurora models and a few others I can't remember. Again, it's not really my thing, but some of their parts are really nice, like tires, for example. So anyways, check out World of Wayne. Hopefully it won't be too long before I can get the next part of this video out. Those rivets I ordered are coming from China, so who knows how long it'll take before I get those. But if I can make those, if I can make these, if I can make those poker Mercedes nipples there work, if I can make that work, then I might not even need those rivets. So I don't know, we'll just see how it goes. But I'm going to stop talking. And as always, until next time, thanks for watching.